Kia ora guys, welcome back to the Black Jersey. My name's Max and today's video is brought to you guys by Rugby News Magazine. In 2022, when my channel was much smaller, I managed to get my predictions for every team's placement in that year's Six Nations spot on. However, the art of sports analysis isn't always about getting something right. It's about deconstructing what happens in a game and attempts to give an audience some deeper insight into why their favourite teams are so good. So naturally, I have had some blunders while running this channel too. After all, I'm not just some all-seeing god, I just proudly worship his being. It does take me a while to process an opinion of mine backfiring, but after using the same processes that I use to create my videos, I can eventually come to terms of being wrong about things. As an example of some things I've got wrong in the world of rugby as of late, these have been my opinion on Warren Gatland's second Wales tenure, my opinion that Sione Tuipulotu wasn't good for Scotland, and of course, the day when I said England would beat the All Blacks by a record score in 2022. After winding the clock back to a few more older videos of mine, I've chosen to entertain you guys today with 10 rugby opinions and predictions that I've gotten wrong over the years. Let's get into this and roll the channel intro, everybody. Number 10 on the list is the fact that I said that England would win the 2019 Rugby World Cup. They were quite clearly going to beat the All Blacks from the day the draw had been made. Eddie Jones was a guy who knew that there were a few people in that England squad that he could really carry to the World Cup and grow them into fulfilling their potential, whereas he also had a few older players to help him set up the team's culture. I'd got so used to South Africa getting beaten though, and because they beat the All Blacks in 2018 while ranked 7th in the world, I didn't really think of it as much more than a fluke, as Beauden Barrett didn't kick too well that day. However, it was a real awakening and I didn't start to realise all the elements of South Africa's game that could be used to deconstruct a rush defence. They did that brilliantly, and much to my surprise they beat England in the 2019 Rugby World Cup final. I ate my words big time and South Africa were crowned champions. Number 9 also relates to the Springboks. I said Mark Talia would be capped by them for the 2023 Rugby World Cup. That year I made a video on predicting the Springboks World Cup squad a little bit early, and I said that, Mark Talia just doesn't seem to be on Ian Foster's radar. I am so happy that I was so wrong about that though, because Talia is an absolute talent. He's great under the high ball, has a strong power game, and of course got 2 tries on his test debut against Scotland before starting back-to-back the week after against England. I'm so happy that Mark Talia got to play for his nation of birth rather than Samoa or South Africa, where he has ancestry from instead. Number 8, this one's going to be really controversial. Before my channel started in 2020, I thought Ireland were going to finish 5th in the 2020 Six Nations. I discussed this briefly in yesterday's upload about my Johnny Sexton analysis, and I saw all these older players from the Schmidt era retained by Andy Farrell, and I was like, no, this can't be. And because Farrell had no experience as a head coach before, I just thought he was going to repeat everything Joe Schmidt did and just not succeed as well as he could have, because I didn't have any reference points for what Farrell would be like as a head coach. Unfortunately, though, I got that one wrong as well, and I'm really happy that that turned out to be wrong, because today Ireland are the best team in world rugby, and as they are ranked first, well, naturally they are the favourites for 2023. Farrell didn't initially strip away all the old boys club. He was more focused on setting foundations first, then finding the talents, then starting from the end of 2021, we really started to get a feel for what the team would actually be like. He ordered everything perfectly and is reaping the rewards for doing so. 7th, I said that women's rugby was soft when I watched a game at 18 years old. The Hawke's Bay Tui were warming up and a curtain raiser for the Hawke's Bay Magpies. It wasn't a very good game. It had a few handling errors, and so I thought, women's rugby is real soft. I'm not going to bother watching this anymore. But then they made a Blues versus Chiefs women's game for 2020 and I was like, you know what, I'm going to watch this. And I was really impressed by players like Les Elder, Chelsea Semple, Eloise Blackwell, Kate Williams, who now plays for Wales. I was really impressed by Kelsey Taniti, Renee Holmes, so many of those players. And I actually realized, no, it's not soft. I was absolutely wrong about women's rugby being soft. I enjoy watching the women's game very much so, just as much as I enjoy watching the men. And I've also I've just been so grateful though to have these Black Ferns on my channel as guests though. Amazing people playing an amazing game. Women's rugby is absolutely excellent. Now for number 6, I thought just taking it to the line, flat attack was how to beat a rush defense. Unfortunately, a model like that just isn't sustainable. If you just have pods going after pods after pods after pods, your forwards just don't have the energy to sustain such a model for the entire 80, and the backs really get left out of the game. So I've actually been really impressed at how coaches have been defeating rush defenses from far back, deep in the pitch, and it's got to the stage where France and Ireland no longer even use a rush defense strategy because quite simply the tactic has outlived its usage, and South Africa beating England in 2019 as the World Cup, that marked the end of the rush defense. Now for today's sponsor, Rugby News Magazine, they send me a monthly issue of their magazine. They do 10 issues a year and they are the most read rugby magazine here in New Zealand. Campbell Burns, the editor, caught up with a really good interview with Damien McKenzie. There's a great interview on Cameron Suafor, who's done really well at lock for the Blues as well. The guy can play number 8 and flanker too. He's a really good player. My favourite contributors right now are Tony Johnson, Kendra Coxedge, and Kieran Reid. They've all been doing really, really good articles. You guys all know that I'm a big fan of independent media. It's what I consume in my spare time for rugby as well. And these guys just, they don't have any clickbait. They don't just falsely do anything. They just want to get good stories out there for good people to read, and they also do some really good coverage of the local scene. My watch over there, it's going off because it's a big fan of this magazine, so visit Rugby News Magazine's website to become a subscriber to their monthly issue. Back to the video. Back in 2021, I made a video about how Anton Lienert-Brown is a future captain of the All Blacks. ALB has indeed got the skills and the traits to become a future All Black captain, but I didn't consider who is in front of him in terms of the leadership potential. Ardie Savia was already the Hurricanes captain at the time, and so was elevated to that role of the All Blacks. Aaron Smith, Brodie Retallick, Beauden Barrett had all been around for yonks. Whitelock had been around for yonks. Sam Cane was captain over Lienert-Brown at the Chiefs, while Luke Jacobson had captained that club a few times as well. I am indeed a Chiefs fan, so I wouldn't mind ALB taking the role at all, but Daniel Rona, who's also part of this team, is looking like a real good future prospect. The Umaga Jensen brothers are still around. Scott Robertson favours David Havili very much, while Geordie Barrett and Rico Ioane have both got long-term deals with NZ Rugby. Quinn Tupaia, another one of my boys, is coming back from injury too, so it's going to get a bit hard for ALB to retain his spot in the All Blacks post-2023. So captaincy, probably not the go for him, though I hope he does have a longer international career while everyone else is saying he should retire right now, because he still has a lot to offer, but captaincy simply I don't think is on the table anymore. I was totally wrong in that video. Number 4 is on Mario Ledesma, who was coach of the Jaguares in their most successful Super Rugby season to date back in 2018. The coach that came after him did even better in 2019, and I was like, oh, this is awesome. Mario Ledesma is Puma's coach. These guys are really building. Look at the form of the midfield. Look at Matera, look at Montoya, look at Creevy, Marcos Kramer, what a future talent. Guido Petty, how amazing is he? Buffelli, oh my goodness, those runs. But when push came to shove, that Argentinian side was leaderless in the 2019 World Cup. While the form of the players was very good, he didn't kind of come across as bold enough to really go for new innovative tactics. Mario Ledesma was very much an Argentinian version of John Mitchell. He was a very talented coach, absolutely amazing with getting on with the players, but he got pushed into the role far too early. Ledesma was coaching his national team just 8 years after he played his last test, and 2019 it really showed. As a guy who went to the 2011 Rugby World Cup, he just hadn't been coaching long enough to be running the show at test level, and that was really unfortunate because I rated Ledesma's potential, but he never lived up to it, and I was wrong about him becoming the greatest Pumas coach of all time. Number 3 is a brief one. I said Scotland would beat the All Blacks in 2022. I think I just overhyped how bad the Fozzie impact was, because Joe Schmidt and Jason Ryan, they were offsetting it. Foster is not as good as many of the other All Blacks coaches, but Schmidt and Ryan have rescued us, and we're not as bad as I was starting to think we were. Gregor Townsend as well hadn't fully transitioned out of the defence first mentality he had with Scotland for so long, and maybe if they were to play each other today they would win, but the Scots still needed to fully transition back into the expansive rugby that is in their DNA that Townsend has started to promote once again. For a wee while he kind of lost his way and was beating down his players' instincts, but eventually he realised that he was wrong. I need to go back to expansive rugby, and so as that wasn't quite completed yet, I was wrong about Scotland beating the All Blacks in 2022. One of my most popular ever videos is on how World of Rugby should not have banned Rassie Erasmus, because though I didn't agree with what he said, he had the freedom of speech to say so. The thing is though, Max, the thing is past myself. Freedom of speech doesn't extend to the point where you can break laws. I ended up making an update on Rassie Erasmus 1 year later where I said his second ban should have been longer. You can check out the reasonings for why I changed my mind about that later on. It basically comes down to the fact that he's encouraged so much abuse against the refs, and we need referees to run the game. My wife is a basketball ref, and so, you know, I see the impact of what bad manners in the crowd can do to her mental state, so I really empathise for what refs go through when stuff like this happens. World Rugby needs to crack down on it, and abusing refs, players, coaches, you can critique how they're performing, but never, ever, ever call them names and stuff. It's not the one, man. And finally, to end this video, back in 2021, I made a video about how the All Blacks could line up in 2023. And as a new YouTuber who had yet to reach 1,000 subscribers, I quite honestly didn't feel the ability to go with my guts. I didn't feel emboldened enough to say what I really thought about the midfield. I thought that Rieko Ioane could develop into one, but he wasn't a midfielder at the time, so I left him out of that All Black squad prediction, and what a mad take that was. What a ridiculous, ridiculous thing I said. You know, when things get talked about so potently and discussion points are so widespread, they can influence you. And so everyone talking about Rieko Ioane refusing to pass the ball, stuff like that, honestly, man, I wasn't, I guess, bold enough to speak out and say I disagreed with everybody. I kind of went along with the talking points, and I'm really happy that Rieko Ioane in France in 2021 proved that, yes, I am indeed a centre. Look at this defence in the game. Look at this amazing try he managed to get in the game. Rieko Ioane is now a full-fledged midfielder. You can check my previous upload from last year, my 2022 World 15, to look at his defensive stats as well. What an incredible number 13 this guy has blossomed into, and all the rumours about him being real arrogant, not true. I met him after the All Blacks defeated Ireland last year, and he's a pretty nice dude who just wants to, thank the fans for coming to the game, as he used to be one of the guys in the crowd always wanting his photos with the players. Rieko Ioane, man, is unbelievable. To finish off the video, guys, just remember to check out my sponsor, Rugby News Magazine, and of course, a big thank you to my patrons. Those who sign up to the Rugby Supporter tier, you can get a free video exclusively only on Patreon upload this month. Thank you as well to the other guys who are just in the rugby fans here. You guys are going to get some early access to my Ireland depth chart video, and I really appreciate you guys coming along to watch this video. You can also go and support me over on Instagram, Twitter, and my opinion journalism website to see more from me. And one last thing as well, remember, Rugby News Magazine, these guys are awesome. Cheers for watching the video, guys. I'll see you later. From Max.